This is the Athletic Football Show.
Welcome to the Athletic Football Show. I'm Robert Mays. Joining me tonight, it's my good friend Nate Tice. Nate, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Still wondering why I'm sepia-toned. And I'm just going to figure this out. Anyone's listening to our Thursday.
Great. You
know,
Do
I? Okay, I
look
look tan.
Yeah.
I know.
It's
like
good.
I'm not tan. So, all right, we'll take it. I'll just take that little bronzer that my camera is giving me right now. It's giving me a hint, but I'm doing very well. A little disappointed how that game ended up, as I'm sure a lot of people are. But yes, I'm doing well otherwise.
I was so excited for this game. So excited for this to be a Thursday night game. Crucial game. Huge game for the Bengals, potentially in the playoff race. Come out. First 4 or 5 drives, I'm like wildly taking notes. Like, what a cool simulated pressure from the Ravens. And, oh, man, I love what the Bengals are doing with some of the play action stuff. And look at Jamar going in motion. And, that's really smart. Love the screen. Great play call. And then just deflating. Just all of it comes crashing down in that single moment where you see him not be able to throw the ball on the sideline. And now the biggest question for the Bengals is, what does this mean long term? You're sitting at 5-5. If he's going to miss any time at all, your playoff hopes are probably done. And that's not overstating it at all. So if I have no idea what the injury is, no idea what the outlook is. Zach Taylor, I think immediately after the game said it sounds like a sprained wrist. If he misses 3 or 4 games because of this, I mean, they got Steelers twice, Jags, Vikings, Chiefs, and Browns over the course of the rest of the season, along with the game against the Colts. I mean,
the frisky Colts.
The frisky Colts. That's not a gimme. That is a tough schedule. Even if he was healthy, him missing a couple games, including the game next week against the Steelers, that could do it. And that's just such a bummer considering the level we've seen this team play at when he's been healthy, and even the way that they were looking tonight when he was on the field.
Yeah. That's what stinks. It came right after where they looked like they were clicking, it's either they get you with the first 15, their opening script, or something clicks and then they go, oh, we're attacking that. And to me, it looked like they were attacking the Ravens linebackers, which I actually thought Kirk Herbstreit did a great job of pointing out, because that's exactly what they were doing.
Even the little picks on both of those plays inside the red zone, like it's very thoughtful offense from them when he was healthy and on the field tonight.
The touchdown to Mixon that they showed with the wrist stuff, they did a little flip motion with Mixon and they put him on Roquan Smith, which is like they would prefer the Ravens to, hey, man-to-man running back, what's that Patrick Queen run? Roquan can roam and be smart. And so they caught him. They just a little flip, just a little simple stuff. And I was like, oh, look at this. Here we go. Just like you. And then we cut back from commercial and then they just show it. And then they show Burrow shaking his head. And it felt so sudden and I think it was even worse because it wasn't like a big hit just happened. I know stuff happened prior, but just before that play. And then it was a big moment in a huge game. And then that was it. And it was after Lamar already had rolled up ankle and just his stuff.
Andrews went out in the second play of the game.
Like, oh, what is going on? What is going on? Oh, I wrote this week, I said the AFC North is a war of attrition. I was like, I didn't mean it literally. Like, I didn't mean it like actually. Like, these guys won after like Kenny Pickett was going to be the last man standing. Like, he was going to be the last quarterback standing in the AFC North if Lamar didn't like battle back. So it was a little scary, but I just feel awful for Bengals fans. Obviously, Burrow, what he's come back with the calf, and now he has to deal with this and just the whole team because they just seem like they're turning a corner.
I feel bad for me because I picked them in the wins draft, and now I'm in big trouble if he's going to miss any sort of stretch of time. But I feel much worse for Bengals fans, period, because it's not like you're talking yourself into false hope after he came back healthy. What this team has looked like, and I know they lost to the Texans last week, but it easily could have won that game. CJ Stroud is playing at a very high level. This team is really good offensively. The defense has some issues right now, but the offense can lift this team and keep them relevant in the AFC.
Betting on the offense.
It's not like you're having to tell yourself a story if you're a Bengals fan when you see him come back healthy in that game against the Niners. You can say, we're here. Like we are ready. We can come back from this. And now to have that emotional roller coaster of, oh, it's over, to we are so fucking back, to now being it's over again. That just sucks. When you came into this season with the expectations they had, that is a tough roller coaster ride to go on. And now you are at the bottom of the hill, my friend.
It's the most cruel thing. It's just as they're just coming up, how you just said it right there. Because you can look at it. It's like, ooh, as long as they get to the dance, you got Burrow and then you got Sweet Lou on defense, like dialing up some stuff. So even if how they look a little disjointed right now, okay, postseason, we'll see. That's all you have to do in the AFC, get to the dance. So like you said, it's like just as they're felt like they're turning the corner as a team, just devastating. I just think how it happened. I just can't get over that. because it wasn't that one hit. You see the
Well,
hit.
so
And you
now
go,
the question becomes, how hurt was it coming into the game?
right. I
Which
know.
there's
There's
no
a
way we can know about
lot
that.
of
I
speculation
missed
going on.
the wrist brace kind of Zapruder
Gate.
film that happened and unfolded earlier today. I did not
Right.
notice that at
Magic
all. We're
tape.
prepping for the Thursday show, so I hadn't seen that. And now there's going to be so much talk about how hurt was he. I know there's been some wild things said about on the internet about
Of course.
grand juries and things of that nature.
Oh, yeah.
That's not important to get into. Just not important to get into. I don't think Congress is going to get involved in the
No, they're
Joe
not.
Burrow hand gate, but I'm sure there's going to be some extended conversations about how injured he was, what we should have known, etc. I don't really give a shit about any of that. All I care about is we don't get to see Joe Burrow play on this Bengals team. It makes the NFL less fun, less exciting, and throws a huge wrench potentially into the AFC wildcard picture. So we're looking at this right now. Steelers and Browns are in the 5 and 6 seeds at 6 and 3. They are 2 games ahead of the Colts, Raiders, Bengals, and Bills now, with half the season left to go, with 7 games left to go. And it feels like it's going to be a pretty big uphill climb for anybody to catch those 2 teams. For anyone with those 5 and 5 records, even if you think the Bills can get hot, etc., it still feels like this is going to be tough sledding. And I don't know what Mike Tomlin is doing and what sort of blood oath he has signed with what sort of deity or demon, whatever. But it really does feel like the Steelers are going to cruise into this thing again.
It's the competition committee, like Vex that that they get. It's like, hey, we're going to give you one magic spell. You get to use it. Just got to use it well. And then he got that one granted wish like that. He was like, yeah, I'm always frisky. I'll never have a losing record. Like that was his one wish. I'll never have a losing record. And somehow, some way it always happens. I also want to throw out a Ravens stat real quick. Sorry. I just got a little lost myself right there. I have a Ravens stat real quick. That was weird. I got vertigo. That was strange. Maybe I was just so excited to share this. The Ravens are tied now or they're going to tie. No one can beat them for most sacks by an NFL team through the first 11 weeks since the 2000 season. With the 2000 Saints, by the way, which big memory, maybe that's why I almost passed out right there. Big memory came back where the Saints that year made the playoffs for the first time, I think, in forever. They played the Vikings when my dad was there, offensive line coach. And after that game, Moss had 2 awesome screens for touchdowns. But after the game, they gave up 0 sacks. And I remember my dad just kept going, we pitched a shutout. And I was like, you guys gave up 17 points. What are you talking about? Gave up 0 sacks.
Yeah.
And now it all came back to me all these years later. It's I didn't realize they had that many sacks. So that's why it was a big deal to them. So yeah, that Ravens front, I mean, those simulated pressures though are
that's what I was going to say is that they're getting those sacks unlike any other historic sack production defense we've ever seen. And that's why it's so cool. Going back to last year, if you look at pressure numbers and sack numbers, they had a ridiculous sack rate last year, but their pressure numbers aren't that high. And typically with traditional ways of thinking about defense, that gap is going to make you think, oh, this will come back to earth. Like they're not getting after the quarterback that consistently, but it's because they're getting so many of those sacks on those simulated pressures late in downs. It's incredible. I mean, it's so many different ways that Kyle Hamilton came off the edge today. So it was a simulated pressure with a nickel, but then they had a drop 8 where Kyle Hamilton came today and they dropped 2 more guys. And then you have moments where, okay, there's a little bit of indecision created by that. And Matabike in the meantime is walking the right guard back into the quarterback, and Clowney's picking up a cheap one and always coming on. The ways that they're creating that disruption and that sack production is all over the place in the best way possible. And it's one of the reasons that defense has been so fun to watch.
It's great. The third down stuff. I mean, that's what Prime Vision was made for the Ravens defense.
It's so true. They are such a great watch with that lens.
With the blitz alert, so you see which guys are red, and that's actually it's getting better by the weeks, which makes week by week, which makes sense because the AI a little just more stuff is given to it. But it's on those looks, it's really cool to see because that is actually it's really following where the quarterbacks and maybe center's eyes go about because you're usually just following the safeties, and the Ravens really mess with all of it because they mess with the safeties and rotate them. They mess with slot leverage, which Burrow reads a ton of. And so they know that. So they have the slot guy just dancing back and forth, because you just read leverage after the post snap and then messing with the front. So those are your 3 keys: a shell, leverage of your slot guy and leverage of outside guys and your front. And they mess with all three. And they do that every third down or every passing down, and then do simulate pressures, bring actual blitzes. And then they just drop 8. They drop different coverages. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And they got a great kind of queen on the chessboard. 2 of them, really, Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton. So they have these guys that can just move everywhere and do everything. It's really, really, it's enjoyable to watch. That's why it stunk, because I wanted to see that chess match between that defense and Burrow.
I was so bummed out about it. On the second drive, they brought, I think it was a simulated pressure with Oweh dropping. Burrow reads it immediately and throws it away from the leverage to Hudson.
It was great.
And he's so good at that. It's like, I wanted to watch that happen, because the iterations of the simulated pressures and how they start getting after him, watching him try to figure that out in real time is one of the best chess matches in the NFL.
Great.
It's him against Mike McDonald. And that was torn away from us again, which just absolutely sucks. But the Ravens, the one last thing about the defense, coming into the season, it felt like they were going to try to have Kyle Hamilton play just a more traditional safety role, and they were going to have different guys. I mean, you saw it early in the year.
Yeah.
You know, it's Arthur Millette, or is Brandon Stevens going to go in there? How's that all going to get figured out? And now with Marcus Williams back, it feels like they've decided our best 5 DBs are Marcus Williams and Geno Stone at safety, Kyle Hamilton in the slot, and Stevens and Humphrey outside. I don't disagree with them.
I don't
like that. That is a very good group to go along with everything that they're doing in the front 7.
It's cool because all 3 guys are versatile, and we talked about on Thursday show as well, but like how they'll push Hamilton back because he still has safety ability. And then now on top of it, the pass breakup he had on Jamar Chase when Chase was running the sail route was just perfect, because we've talked about this on the show, is that the Bengals are using Chase more from that spot, the number 3 spot. And they ran that play before against the Rams as well, where it's just 2 go routes, or, seam route, go route. There's the sail route with Chase coming from the 3 spot. And it's Hamilton. It's a safety, quote unquote, on Jamar Chase. And usually you go, yeah, like that is exactly what you want. But Hamilton's such a smart player. I'm sure they were aware of it. It was a perfect little example of like, in the right spot, probably some great opponent scouting, because they've seen that. And on top of it, Hamilton making a great play on it. So he's a great, like, he's such a fun player. I tweeted the clip, the last third down.
Perfect for this defense.
Amazing. Yeah.
He is absolutely perfect for the way that they want to play. It is
the modern defender
cool pairing of skill set, awareness, the abilities you can deploy him with a defensive coordinator who is going to use him. He's going to use him in all of those different ways. I absolutely love it. This Ravens team is fun to watch. This Ravens team, when everything is clicking, is a really kind of, I don't know, it's an intriguing group. It's exciting. Like on both sides of the ball, when you feel like, all right, they're the best version of themselves. Now, problem with that is Mark Andrews done for the year. So that idea of the Ravens offense being the best version of itself immediately gets sapped away with him not being there anymore. We could talk about what they did tonight and the receivers and how well they played, but taking him out of that equation is a massive blow for a team that had legitimate, still does, Super Bowl aspirations. Like, this has a chance to be the best team in the NFL over the course of the year, and they lose one of the most important pieces they have.
It's the classic, what they say about tight ends. He's the safety blanket for Lamar. They let him free roam because him and Lamar are kind of like, all right, find space when Lamar wants to scramble and everything. So this off, and OBJ looked like he got banged up at the end of the game too.
Yeah.
It's this offense has been death by 1,000 slant routes and crossers, which is, tonight was like a perfect example of it. First it was Zay Flowers, and then OBJ, and then Rashad Bateman. They're using Bateman as a deep ball guy on top of all the slant stuff, and he's burning guys, but he's not a ball winner. Like, he's not like a
but every time they send him on one of those, I'm impressed with how explosive he looks.
He burns him off.
It's so weird. I just didn't expect him to be that sort of player in the league. And they're still figuring out exactly what his role is within the offense, but his vertical juice down the field is so much more impressive than I ever could have hoped it would be.
Yeah, he's got a lot more. It's just because he's so good off the line, and he leaves guys just like really feeling weird. He's one of those just
when he strides out, I'm like, that guy is faster than I thought he would be.
He was one of the guys, I think he tested, and a lot of people were like, oh, that's a fake number. And it's one of those where it's like, nope, that looks good. He looks exactly how he tested. But these guys with Zay Flowers, you can see his juice. OBJ did look better until obviously got banged up at the end.
Really good. He looked the best he probably has all season.
Yeah. So but it just stinks because you can see Lamar doesn't really trust Likely. Like, he kind of just looks at him and goes, I'm gonna keep scrambling. And that's how it looked, at least from the prime vision, from the all 22 view during the game, was that there's a lot of times where Likely was leaking out and he was just like, and they just kept running or kept scrambling around. So it's different. That's the one difference. Likely he's fine, but he's not
At
Andrews.
least he's shown some flashes, though.
Oh, yeah.
At least when we've
It's
had
not
to
negative.
see him, he's been productive.
Yep.
If you're going to replace Andrews with anybody, we've seen a guy who can actually do some stuff. I am encouraged. We'll see how long Beckham is out. Tonight was the biggest thing for me watching the Ravens offense tonight was just how different it feels when you have that many playmakers on the field compared to what we've seen from this unit in the past. And the guy I kept coming back, I know it was a fluke play, but the guy I kept coming back to in the preseason was Aguilar. It's like the fact that Nelson Aguilar is your fourth best receiver. When you compare that to what the 2022 Ravens felt like to a 2021 Ravens, it is such a marked difference. And even him catching that deflected ball and taking it to the house, every single one of those guys can make a play. And having four of them with somewhat complementary skill sets, but even if there is a little bit of overlap, just dudes out there, it is so nice to see. And you combine that with the run game, and I really get excited about what can the finished product be by January 1st as we see this team continue to grow. And now you yank Andrews out of there, and just one more blow in what has been a pretty shitty night.
Right. We talk about like pass rushers after like a banged up offensive line. It's like, oof, you just got this team's got goes five deep. Oh man, that's gonna be so tough. That's what the Ravens receivers kind of feel like. You're out a corner. It's like, you want to go man?
Tonight, DJ Turner having to play.
They're gonna find you. They're gonna find who your fourth. Not many teams go past two good corners. There's not many guys that can run three corners that can run.
The Bengals are deeper than most with the guy they drafted that high.
Yes, and they'll find it. Like over time, they'll just find it. So that's why it's like, okay, it's better. I know the Lamar to Nelson Aguilar chemistry is the funniest thing in this league. I never would have expected that. It's like he just has this weird chemistry with them. Sometimes some players just have chemistry with like receivers, like they just do. Like Watson with Mahomes. It's like he just has this weird chemistry with certain guys where it's like, I put them, you're going to go where I think you're going to go. They can like judge their pace perfectly or something like that, or the ball is just a magnet to their hands like tonight with the tip ball. But that's been all season for them. But it's a good point. And Gus Bus has just been perfect for this. Keaton Mitchell, lightning and thunder with getting Keaton Mitchell with Lamar back there, and that's just so needed. But Gus Bus is just, oh my God, in short yardage, he's automatic. I looked it up. Since 2019, there's been 34 running backs with 30 or more short yardage rushes. He's only behind Derrick Henry in converting those.
Wow.
Yeah. 77% on 57 rushes with 1 or 2 yards to go. He's basically the tush push all by himself. Like that's what Gus Edwards is running the ball. So it's, this offense, when it's rolling, it's fun.
And I still think even without Andrews, you look at just the landscape of the AFC, obviously the Chiefs defense is so good, and we expect that the offense is going to be, a top unit over the course of the year. Even if there are concerns, they have the best player in the league, and there's a lot of earned equity and earned benefit of the doubt on that side. But you look at the rest of the AFC, and it's like, this team top to bottom is really good. Yeah. This team top to bottom is really good. Like, they have so many pieces that can hurt you on both sides of the ball, and I still feel that way. It's a bummer to lose Mark Andrews, and it does make them a different offense, but I still feel like they just have so much teeth across the board on both sides of the ball. And with the way that defense is playing, they still have more than enough firepower to be one of those teams at the end. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see what the offense looks like. We'll see the form it takes without him, but I still feel like they've been able to tap into so much even without him on the field that this Ravens roster top to bottom is fantastic. And now them getting even healthier on defense, it's going to be fun to see what that group can do over the second half of the season. You can't say the same about the Bengals.
No.
I mean, they're staring up at the teams in the playoffs right now. And if Burrow's out for any length of time, it feels like this season is probably over. And it's November 16th. I just never anticipated that. I didn't anticipate that 2 weeks ago when we were watching them clicking. And so to be at this point before we even get to Thanksgiving, if you're a Bengals fan, is just absolutely devastating.
It's just, I keep coming back to it. It's like, it just felt like they got over the hump, and this is just such a brutal like gut punch. I mean, just the worst type, because you think you're past it all. It just doesn't feel like just right, because just even with how the Jets with Rodgers' injury and everything, it's just like, you want to like see these guys. Like I wrote about, and when I wrote about these teams' strength and weaknesses, my strength just for the Bengals was Joe Burrow. It was just like Joe Burrow, and then the whole section is just that he is this engine. Like, yes, they have a lot of good players, but watch him play. Even in the Texans game, when it wasn't, sometimes it was disjointed at the end of the game. It's like, oh my God, he's creating throw after throw and creating plays out of nowhere. He truly does the magician stuff. So it's just obviously he's
one of the best, like 4 or 5 players in the league.
In the league.
He's one of the most
Of course, this
4 or 5 players in the league.
Like, of course, this hurts. I know it's just terrible.
Best we can argue position and things like that, but in terms of actual value and impact,
oh yeah,
we saw it. You don't even have to talk yourself into it. We saw the difference between we saw the difference between what they look like when he's right and what they look like when he's not. He truly is one of the most crucial players in the entire league. And now we might not see him for, even if it's just a couple weeks, that might be enough to torpedo this Bengals season. But the Ravens are still rolling, and their fans should feel pretty good, but Bengals fans should feel just as awful after the way that this one ended up. So we'll have a lot of time to figure all this out, to examine all of this as we hear more about Burrow's timeline, but a deflating night that should have been an excellent night as we kick off week 11 here.
I thought you found an answer to the Bengals tight end question too. I was like, man, we're getting some cool stuff from this game. It's just so brutal. It's just not fun. So I'm just hoping he bounces back, because I want him to bounce back. So it's a fun NFL season and fun for the Bengals.
Even if he comes back,
I know their schedule's too tough. But
listen, they got 2 against the Steelers. If there's a world where he can come back next week, I know that seems far off considering they ruled him out at halftime and he couldn't grip a I don't have a lot of optimism about that, but they still have 2 against the Steelers. Like, if they could take both of those, and if the Jags don't look great right now, they absolutely could still do this. It just becomes very difficult, and it becomes even more difficult if Burrow's going to miss any amount of time.
Well, that's why they need defense to step up. That's why it's like very disappointing. It's such a bottom unit right now. So it's like that they need to step up. Like, this is where the game plans come in, Lou. This is when you need them.
All right, that's all we got. Guys, if you would, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We love doing these. We do the live shows on Sunday night. You can check those out any week. Please go listen to our week 11 preview that is currently available in all of your podcast feeds, breaking down a lot of the news from this week. Ken Dorsey, what's happening with Deshaun Watson, plus some of the games of this week. So really would love if you guys could go check that out. And if you could, go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Please. If you like the podcast. After you listen to this week's preview, just go let us know if you like the show. Leave us a little 5-star. It'll take you 2 seconds, and it would mean a lot to me personally. So thank you very much. Thank you all for listening. We will be back here on Sunday night. Until then, talk to you guys soon.